What if the very people responsible for protecting the country from foreign threats were quietly removed just days before tensions reached a boiling point? That's exactly the question exploding across Washington right now, after a heated exchange revealed something that left even seasoned lawmakers stunned. Because when asked a simple question about agents he personally fired, FBI Director Kash Patel couldn't give a clear answer. And what makes this even more intense is the timing, because all of this unfolded while concerns about Iran were rapidly escalating. So what really happened behind the scenes, and why are insiders now raising alarms?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Patel, you had a question from Dr. Jackson about the shutdown we're in now with Homeland Security, and I believe you said that this would be harmful to America because of the threat from Iran. Is that correct? Do I recall that correctly?
Generally, yes, sir.
How many days before we invaded Iran did you know we were going to launch an invasion?
We can get into those details in a classified setting, but I work with my colleagues across the spectrum here to give me advance warning so that we can reinforce.
Was it 2 days, 3 days, a month?
It was sometime before that, sir.
Sometime before that. So you had not. With that knowledge, why did you fire at least a dozen agents in Counterintelligence Unit 12 that specializes in Iran counterintelligence, which makes us much less secure and safe with this war going on from Iranian attacks potentially against our country?
As I said earlier, Congressman, I don't work on timelines when these terminations occur. There are internal investigations conducted by the careers at the FBI that highlight unethical or inappropriate conduct, and it's up to me to make the decision. But our Iran Threats Mission Center has never been more resourced, as I've highlighted, a 43% increase in counter-espionage arrests from Iran alone, and 360 ongoing terrorism investigations with Iran-affiliated individuals.
And the people you fired, those 12 people, they were experts on Iran, were they not?
I don't believe so.
They worked in counterintelligence, did they not?
I'm taking you at your word, sir. I'm not familiar with every
You're the
single
chief
word.
director. I'm not. You should know the answer. You fired the people. Where did they work?
People were terminated for violating their ethical obligations and the high standards.
Was the ethical violations that they dealt with the case of the classified documents that were found at the bathroom in Mar-a-Lago, was that the ethical issue?
As I said earlier, all those matters are pending litigation, so I'm not going to comment on them.
Director Gabbard, are you familiar with CI-12?
I'm not, Congressman.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. In the intelligence community's unclassified annual threat assessment from last year, it said, quote, Iran's large conventional forces are capable of inflicting substantial damage to an attacker, executing regional strikes, and disrupting shipping, particularly energy supplies to the Strait of Hormuz. It seems the IC was entirely correct in its assessment about Iranian retaliation in the Strait. Did the IC's assessment about the Iranian capabilities in the Straits of Hormuz change in the past year?
No, Congressman.
Does Iran still have the capability to threaten shipping in the Straits of Hormuz with missiles, mines, and small boats?
Their capabilities have been largely degraded, but yes, they still have means to threaten passage through the Strait of Hormuz.
And how long can they keep the strait closed?
Based on current events, I'd have to get an updated assessment from the intelligence community on that.
Did you have an analysis of the impact of a war on global supply chains and the price of oil and gas?
I believe that assessment may have come from the Department of Treasury or Energy.
It didn't come through your office?
It came from their element within Department of Energy or Energy.
Do you know if the President was briefed on those assessments?
I believe so, but I can't confirm.
So if he was briefed on those assessments that that was a problem and the Straits of Hormuz could be shut off and that's causing a great problem in the world's economy with oil prices going up to, I think, under $120 or something a barrel and an effect on all countries' economies, why would the President not have taken actions to strengthen defense around the Strait of Hormuz?
All I can say is that the President ultimately is responsible for making the decisions based on the totality of information and intelligence that he has available to him.
The intelligence that he has available to him, that's a scary thought. Does the IC know where Iran's enriched uranium is?
The IC has high confidence that we know where it is.
And can you tell us that in classified?
We can speak more about this topic in the classified setting.
Okay. Could it be, we have methods of destroying it?
This is a conversation for a closed setting, sir.
Do you have any idea what the purpose of the Marines being sent, the units that are being sent over there, is the idea that we will put troops with boots on the ground in Iran?
ODNI and the IC is not involved in the operational planning and movements of the Department of War assets.
Thank you. I'll be very honest with you. When you made your original comments, it was kind of scary because of all the craziness that goes on in the world. I can't wait for the classified setting. Thank you.
The moment that set everything off didn't come from a dramatic announcement or a breaking headline. It came during a routine hearing, where Steve Cohen started asking what should have been straightforward questions. He wanted clarity. He wanted facts. But instead, what he got was hesitation. When Cohen pressed Patel about the agents who had been fired, at least a dozen individuals, Patel seemed unsure about their roles, their expertise, and even their specific responsibilities. And that's where things started to feel off. Because these weren't random employees. These were individuals working in counterintelligence, one of the most sensitive areas of national security. And yet, the person who made the decision to remove them appeared unable to explain exactly who they were or what they did. The room shifted. The tone changed. And suddenly, what started as a standard oversight question turned into something much bigger. But that wasn't even the most concerning part. Because when Cohen dug deeper, he pointed out something that raised even more questions. These agents, according to reports, were connected to efforts involving foreign threats, specifically Iran. And this wasn't happening in isolation. This was happening at a time when global tensions were already high, when the possibility of escalation in the Middle East was being openly discussed, and when the need for strong intelligence operations was more critical than ever. So naturally, the question became unavoidable. Why would anyone choose this exact moment to remove experienced counterintelligence personnel? Was it coincidence, or was there something else going on? As the exchange continued, Patel leaned on a familiar response. He referenced internal investigations. He mentioned ethical standards. And he repeatedly pointed to ongoing legal matters as a reason he couldn't provide details. On the surface, that might sound reasonable. But to many watching, it felt incomplete. Because while legal limitations can restrict what's said publicly, they don't usually prevent a director from understanding the basic roles of the people they've dismissed. And that disconnect is what kept drawing attention. It wasn't just what Patel said, it was what he couldn't say. And then things took another turn when new reports started surfacing. According to multiple sources, the group of agents who were removed wasn't just any unit. They were part of a specialized team known informally as CI-12. This wasn't a name most people had heard before, but inside intelligence circles, it carried serious weight. CI-12 was reportedly responsible for tracking foreign espionage threats, handling sensitive investigations, and monitoring activities linked to adversarial nations. In simple terms, this was a unit designed to identify and stop threats before they reached American soil. And what made it even more significant was their focus on the Middle East, including Iran. Now, to be clear, much of what's being discussed comes from reports and sources familiar with the situation. So it's important to frame this correctly. There's been a lot of talk, and while not everything has been officially confirmed, the consistency across multiple accounts has raised eyebrows. According to those reports, CI-12 wasn't just another department. It was a highly trained group with experience in complex cases involving classified materials and foreign operations. Some members had spent years building expertise in specific regions, including understanding how certain governments operate behind the scenes. And that's what made the decision to remove them so controversial. Because when you take a step back, the timing starts to look even more unusual. Around the same period, discussions about Iran's capabilities were becoming more urgent. Intelligence assessments highlighted the potential risks tied to the Strait of Hormuz, a critical pathway for global oil shipments. Any disruption there could ripple across the world economy, affecting prices, supply chains, and international stability. And during the hearing, officials acknowledged that Iran still retained the ability to threaten that region. So while those risks were being discussed at the highest levels, a key intelligence unit connected to those very threats was being reduced. That contrast is what's fueling so much debate right now. And then there's another layer to this story that's been gaining attention. Some lawmakers, including Cohen, hinted at a possible connection to previous investigations involving classified documents. Specifically, questions were raised about whether the agents who were removed had worked on cases tied to sensitive materials found at Mar-a-Lago. Now, it's important to approach this carefully. There's no confirmed statement linking the firings directly to that situation. But the fact that the question was raised at all, and that it wasn't clearly addressed, has led to speculation. And in today's environment, unanswered questions often create more attention than confirmed facts. Inside the FBI, according to additional reports, the atmosphere has become tense. Some sources claim that employees are uncertain about what might happen next. There's talk that more changes could be coming, though nothing official has been announced. Publicly, the agency has pushed back against the idea that its capabilities have been weakened. Officials maintain that operations remain strong and that resources have actually increased in certain areas. But behind closed doors, according to those same reports, the mood is less confident. And when you have that kind of contrast between official statements and insider concerns, it naturally leads to more scrutiny. At the same time, the broader geopolitical situation hasn't slowed down. Discussions about Iran's influence, its regional strategies, and its potential responses have continued to dominate headlines. During the hearing, questions were raised about whether leaders were fully briefed on the possible consequences of escalation, including impacts on global markets and energy supplies. And while some officials suggested that those assessments had been considered, others couldn't confirm specific details. That uncertainty only added to the overall sense that key decisions were being made in a complex and rapidly evolving environment. And this is where the story shifts from being just about a hearing to something much bigger. Because at its core, this isn't just about one decision or one moment. It's about leadership under pressure. It's about how information is handled, how decisions are made, and how those decisions are explained when questions arise. When someone in a top position appears unable to provide clear answers about actions they've taken, it doesn't just raise concerns, it invites deeper examination. And that's exactly what's happening now. There's also the question of perception. In situations like this, what people believe is often shaped as much by what's unclear as by what's confirmed. When viewers see a direct exchange where one person is asking straightforward questions and the other is struggling to respond, it creates a narrative. And that narrative can spread quickly, especially when it involves national security and global tensions. That's why moments like this don't stay contained within a hearing room. They ripple outward, influencing public opinion and driving further investigation. And yet, despite all the attention, there are still major gaps in what's known. Key details about the internal investigations mentioned by Patel haven't been publicly released. The exact reasons behind each termination remain unclear, and the full impact on ongoing operations hasn't been fully explained. Those gaps are what keep the story alive, because until those questions are answered, the speculation isn't going anywhere. So where does that leave things now? On one hand, you have official assurances that everything is under control, that threats are being managed, that the system is functioning as it should. On the other hand, you have reports suggesting uncertainty, tension, and concern within the very agency responsible for handling those threats. And in between those two perspectives is a growing number of people trying to figure out which version is closer to the truth. What makes this situation especially compelling is how quickly it developed. One moment, it's a routine discussion about national security. The next, it's a headline-grabbing exchange that raises serious questions about decision-making at the highest levels. And because it touches on issues that affect not just one country but the global landscape, the stakes feel even higher. As more information continues to surface, one thing is clear. This isn't a story that's going to disappear anytime soon. The combination of unanswered questions, conflicting reports, and high-stakes implications means it will likely remain a topic of discussion for weeks, if not longer. And with each new detail, the picture will either become clearer or even more complicated. So now the question turns to you. After seeing how this unfolded, after hearing the exchange and considering the reports, what do you think is really happening here? Was this simply a series of unfortunate decisions made under pressure, Or is there something deeper that hasn't been fully revealed yet? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this is one of those situations where every perspective adds to the bigger picture. And if you want to stay updated on stories like this, where the details matter and the stakes are real, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We break down the moments that others overlook and bring you the full context behind the headlines. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video on the channel.